My roommate doesn't want to live with me again after I watched Jurassic Park movies while his girlfriend was at our apartment. I, 22 male, am finishing up my last year of college and live with my best friend, 23 male. He has a girlfriend, 20 female, that he's been with for about 6 months. She is pretty shy, and whenever she's at our apartment, they are pretty much always just hanging out in my friend's room. They will rarely hang out in common areas for extended periods of time. So suffice to say that even though I've known her for half a year, I know very little about her and wouldn't say I know her very well personally. This past weekend, I was scrolling through Netflix to find something to put on in the background while I was studying for finals. I found The Land Before Time, which was one of my favorite movies growing up because my older brother used to always play it for me when he babysat me. So I turned it on and just kind of had it on. My roommate and his girlfriend came by and my roommate noticed the movie I was watching. He commented that he hadn't seen it in years, since he was a kid. He asked his girlfriend if she's ever seen it, and she said no. She said that she wasn't allowed to watch any movies with dinosaurs because her religion doesn't believe in them and believes that their fossils were put in the ground by God as a test. I know people that believe this.
Oh, I dated one.
Needless to say, I was caught off guard. Of course, I had a million questions, but for some reason, my brain went towards dinosaur movies instead of her religion. I asked if she had ever seen any of the Jurassic Park movies, and she said no. I told her some of them are really good and suggested we have a dinosaur movie marathon. She said she doesn't want to watch any movie that goes against her beliefs. I just said okay and didn't push it, and they quickly retreated back to my roommate's room. But it did kind of make me want to watch Jurassic Park movies. I have the first 2 on Blu-ray, so I found those and started watching them. Neither my roommate or his girlfriend came out of the room much the rest of the day, except to get something from the kitchen or go to the bathroom. After I finished the second movie, I left to meet up with some friends. I stayed at a friend's place that night after drinking, and when I got back to my place, my roommate immediately laid into me. He said that I was very disrespectful to his girlfriend by playing Jurassic Park movies immediately after she told me it goes against her religious beliefs. He said I made her very uncomfortable and that they both agree I did it on purpose to mock her beliefs. I told him I don't care at all about her beliefs and that all I did was watch a movie in my own house. I told him it's not my problem what her religious beliefs are, and if she gets upset about dinosaur movies, then I'm honestly kind of surprised she can go through day-to-day life without having an existential breakdown.
Boom.
He told me that he doesn't want to live with me again after our lease is up at the end of the month.
Goodbye.
We had already been looking at renewing our lease or finding a new place, but I think they are seriously overreacting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd be done.
This
Get
is
me out of there.
weird.
Get me out of there. And that's the thing is like, you've talked about this before too. It's just like, it's fine. You have your beliefs. That's fine. Cool.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
But it's just like the minute that you like make other like people small to make room for your beliefs, it's just like, why is that better than?
This is story time, but I needed to sneeze first, so give me a sec. Story time about how I got my boyfriend fired from his job because he had a girl coworker. I'm totally toxic. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Instead, I'm on Instagram. Let me start off by saying, yes, I do love my boyfriend. I'm also extremely toxic. And honestly, he is too. Here's a little backstory. We both met when we were dating other people. In fact, he was dating my best friend, and I was dating his best friend. I'm 18 and he's 19. So yeah, we are a little immature. Hey, love is love. After we met, we started secretly hooking up. And then finally, we broke up with them. Now that we're together, none of our friends speak to each other. They've all sided with the other friend. So he and I have been together for 6 months now. He's extremely controlling. He's always checking my Snapchat, my location, always wants to know where I am. So I started doing the exact same thing to him, mostly out of spite. Then I realized he's a little sketchy. He does not want me to have his location, so I started blocking him on Snapchat and Instagram. This drove him absolutely crazy. So much so that he deactivated his Instagram just so that I would feel more comfortable. At first I was like, OMG, he's so sweet, he loves me. But then I just realized this is another manipulation tactic on his part. I needed a way to manipulate him even more. He started coming to my house and announced. My parents hated this. They told him that he shouldn't be doing that anymore. He started talking bad about my parents to me. Obviously, this is a big red flag for me. I mean, I can deal with the rest, but talking bad about my parents? Hell no. Well, I was furious with him. He started telling me that my mom was crazy and that she was probably cheating on my dad, and that's where I learned to be a cheater too. And then he started talking bad about my parents to his parents. So his mom called me and asked me if I was okay with my parents. Guess what happens? I show up to his job and there he is talking to a girl. Story time about how I got my boyfriend fired from his job because he had a girl coworker. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Instead, I'm on Instagram. Well, I show up to his Abercrombie & Fitch job and I find him talking to a girl. Very pretty girl. I went insane. Pulled him aside and told him that he needed to quit right then and there. That if the tables were turned and I was the one talking to a really cute boy at my job, he would lose it and break up with me immediately. He started telling me that I was overreacting. I was being insecure. Me being insecure? Not him checking my phone every day. By the way, the girl was so nice to me. Came up to me later and said, you don't need to worry about anything. I have a boyfriend and and I'm not interested in yours. I did appreciate it, but the way my boyfriend was talking to her was a no-no. So here's what I did. Waited for his shift to end, and I went straight into that Abercrombie and asked to speak to the manager. And that's when I made up the whole story. I told him that this boy that was working there was harassing me, and that he kept staring at me and grabbed my arm, which made me feel super uncomfortable and scared. And the cherry on top, I started to cry. And I told him that this wasn't the first time it happened, that the same boy had done it another time. The manager, of course, apologized right away. I left the store. 2 hours later, my boyfriend calls me crying. He said that he got fired and he didn't know why. That all the manager said was that his behavior was inappropriate, and my boyfriend couldn't figure it out. Well, he's never gonna find out that it was me that got him fired. So I begged my dad to hire my boyfriend at his car shop. And my dad did, out of the kindness of his heart. So I made my boyfriend eat all of his dirty words. Not only that, but him working at my dad's car shop allows me to keep an eye on him at all times. You see, I have access to all the cameras. And I also show up whenever I want. But here's the crazier part. Remember the girl that my boyfriend was talking to? She slid into my DMs and told me that I'm pretty. She even asked me to go on a date. I mean, should I?
Am I wrong for bullying the police into pressing charges against a bunch of kids? First and most important, I'm not here for legal advice. I'm just here to see if I'm wrong. Second, this is my property that I have a mortgage on. It's not community or city property. So this past winter, I had a pool installed at my house. After the pool installation, I had my old fence removed and installed new fences that met with the city code for a residential pool. My new fence is higher than my old one and the gates have approved locks. Well, about a month ago, I had to travel for work and was gone for about 2 weeks. When I came back, I found my backyard trashed and it seems someone had a pool party while I was gone. The locks on my gates were broken, but luckily no one broke into my house. Now I have security cameras, so when I checked them, I saw 20 teens having a pool party. I didn't give anyone permission to have a party at my pool, so obviously I was mad, and when I zoomed in, I recognized some of their faces from the neighborhood. Am I wrong for bullying the police into pressing charges against a bunch of kids? I went to the police and submitted a copy of the recordings and tried to file a report. The cops did their best to try to talk me out of it, but I pressed them on it until they relented and took a report. But weeks passed by and I heard nothing, so I called them to find out what was being done. I got angry and threatened to sue unless they get off their behinds and enforce the laws. I should also point out that I live in a town with about 2,000 people and nothing ever happens here. Finally, they got some of the teens seen on my security video, but they tried to talk me out of pressing charges. But I was adamant and insisted. When my girlfriend found out, she said I should have let it go and we got in an argument. Even my own mom thinks I'm being a bully by forcing the cops to file charges against teens who just wanted to throw a party. Everyone is making me out to be some grumpy guy with a score to settle, and they're worried about me destroying the teens' futures. Right now, it feels like me against the world, and I want to know if I'm wrong. Am I wrong for leaving my niece's wedding reception early and taking back my gift? I'm 45 male and I have a niece who's 22 and just got married last weekend. And currently the family is blowing up with drama because of what I and my wife did. I must preface this by saying that my family can definitely be pushovers and they really hate conflict. So they tend to let themselves be run over by someone else in order not to have a fight, and I am not this way. Anyway, the wedding was on a Saturday, a Catholic ceremony in a church that was at 3:30 p.m. And the reception area was at a brewery about 15 minutes from the church. The reception was set to start at 5, and maybe this was stupid on the venue people, but they wouldn't open the bar or bring appetizers until the bride and groom arrived. Service ended around 4:30 and everybody was told to go to the reception. The wedding party had a limo and a separate limo took parents, grandparents, and siblings. The couple is young and decided against family and the wedding party. Am I wrong for leaving my niece's wedding reception early and taking back my gift? It was 4 sorority sisters and fraternity brothers on each side, and my wife and I drove. We arrived at the venue around 4:50 with the first family limo arriving around that time. By 5, I'd say 150 guests were there, but no bride and groom. The wedding coordinator was getting pissed as it's now 5:45 and there's absolutely no wedding party. We were all just standing around with no food or drinks. Someone was able to get a hold of the maid of honor, and apparently the bride and groom told the limo driver to stop at a liquor store, then to drive them around on the highway for an hour so the wedding party could get trashed. At around 6, the maid of honor said they'd be arriving in 20 minutes, but my wife and I looked at each other and said, "We're out." I told my brother that we're leaving and taking the gift with us, and he tried to plead by saying they're just kids, let them have fun. A few days later, my niece apologized and also asked for the gift.